Wanna play Bop It?
Cool.
It commands you obey.
Bop it. Twist it. Pass it.
If you can't keep up,
Twist it.
you lose. Once you get your hands on Bop It, you're not gonna want to stop it. Fast-talking electronic Bop It. Batteries not included.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey guys.
What's up?
Hello.
Hey.
Hey, I like the hat collection.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I was thinking that Bop It hat too. I saw it in a couple of your pictures.
Yeah, this is the only one. This is actually just a sample. We're working on a few giveaways, as you've seen.
So that's a one of a kind hat right now.
It is. Where I
Nice.
didn't actually like the stitching on it wasn't great, so we're having it redone. So,
Okay.
but I get to wear it.
Yeah.
Love it.
But yeah, so my name is Xavier. Little introductions.
My name's Ian.
And I'm the hash bro, David Bean.
All right. So David, Ian, and Xavier.
Yeah.
All right.
Nice to meet
Nice.
you. And you are obviously Dan, the
Dan.
inventor of Bop It.
Fucking tight.
But yes, how's quarantine been treating you? How's that affected things for you?
Well, it's like for most people, there's silver linings as much as there's, lots of different hardships. And it's been, I guess, in general, hard not to see family and people that you want. And I've got my dad I'm trying to take care of. There's a lot of different things going on for me, but the silver lining of being able to spend time, the people you are with, I think people are spending a lot more time with those people that are close to them. So most people I talk to are excited that they get to sort of re-meet some of the people that they're close to, that they're usually busy, like running off to work and coming back, and all of a sudden they're spending. So the same for me and my wife and my close family. We've spent a little more time together playing games, of course, because we love games. And so it's been interesting. And it's been, I have, what you've seen in some of the pictures is I have a home studio that I built maybe 10 years ago, but I hardly used. It was more like a fun room, but it didn't get used as a studio because I have an office in the city in San Francisco. That's a really, where we have a team of 5 people where we meet and work on lots of projects. So I really missed that. So, but it gave me a chance to build out the last few months, build out my home studio. And I'm like, wow, this is a killer studio. I remember designing it thinking I would use it all the time, and then I never did. And so now I've been really, really enjoying just hunkered down and working from there, and always working on something. So that's, where a lot of this came from, was having the time to be able to sort of go back in the past and look at past prototypes and things and start to pull stuff out and talk about it. So for me, in the long answer, it's been, the silver lining has been for me being able to revisit a lot of really, really interesting archives and stuff that I probably wouldn't have gotten to.
Very nice. Yeah.
Amazing, yeah.
You guys got a favorite family game during quarantine?
There is. I'm a kind of like, the games I play are more. Do you guys know about the Essen game conference that is in Germany every year? It'd be coming up.
Mm-mm.
It's like the gamers game. It's a very well-known, in Germany, it's sort of almost near Amsterdam, way north. And it's where sort of the mecca of all of the games, where things like Settlers of Catan and that style, much more Asmodee, those companies that have big gamer fan base. It's a huge fair that you go, and it's a consumer fair where you actually play games, as well as, it's not just like it's more like a Gen Con a little bit.
Yeah.
But a lot of games, the last 5 or 6 years, I've been going there and discovering just great games. There's one called Azul, Azul, that is a fantastic, I don't know if you know that, it's like a tile-based game where you're trying to collect things. Really well done. Games like, there's one called Camel Up, which is a game that I discovered there. We play a lot. And then there's this one from Amigo, a card game called Llama, which is just a basic, almost like playing Uno a little bit, but simpler. So when we play games like that. Sheriff of Nottingham, is that the game? There's one where it's a bluffing game, like not
That one's a little bit more
like,
famous, I think, than the other ones.
Yeah, I think I've heard
Yeah.
of that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen that at Dr. G's.
But or I play honestly with my father, who's 94. He taught me cribbage, a long time ago, and we play a lot of cribbage.
Yeah.
My parents are obsessed with cribbage. That's like the family game.
There is a game I'm playing with my cousin online, but not like just literally we video our moves and send them back and forth, called Can't Stop.
Okay.
Really fantastic game. It's been around since the 80s, and it's a push your luck dice games. You guys would absolutely get addicted and love this game. It's complete, really, really simple, but yeah. So yeah, which favorite game? I'd say family game. When we get together, it's probably in that range. I mean, I would say Catan, really, when we get together with our bigger family, we have enough people.
Nice.
What do you guys play?
We've been really into D&D lately. We've been very
a lot of tabletop stuff.
Yeah, going down that rabbit hole. Yeah, we got a couple of those bluffing games. The what are they? One Night Werewolves.
The One Night Werewolves are fun.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I bought Catan, but we haven't played it yet.
Yeah. We gotta crank that out. We gotta. But yeah, I jotted those down. I'm gonna check those out. The ones you said.
Yeah, Catan gets you to really, really, really start to get. It gets very spiteful.
Yeah. Seems like more of like a hoarding version of Monopoly, where friendships can break. The Mario Kart level of.
Yes. But tell me about you guys. How did you get started doing that? What led you to this, and what are your interests?
So we just started to see kind of just like interesting people on Instagram. That was kind of where we started. There was a couple people that no one really had like looked into on the internet, and we kind of started to dive down those rabbit holes, and then ended up talking to pretty much all of them and having them on as guests. So yeah, we just originally were thinking about maybe starting a podcast. We didn't exactly have a real idea or anything, and then we were just kind of like, well, we're always on the internet finding interesting videos, finding interesting people, so might as well start going through that. So we have a couple episodes where I think we lost your video a second. Pop back up. There we go.
I got someone. It's on my iPad, and someone's calling, so I gotta put Do Not Disturb on.
Oh, I got you.
No worries. But yeah, we just like being obscure pop culture detectives.
Yeah,
I think is a big thing.
Kind of like the obscure internet pop culture where there's kind of like cult followings behind a certain individual, and we just kind of look into the ins and outs of it. But yeah, I think how I found you was it just popped up in like my recommended for you, and it just said like Bop It Inventor, and I was like, is this really the Bop It Inventor? And then, I went to it and started to see like how you showcase people's kind of the best memes and stuff people have made that are like Bop It related, and I was like, oh, this is neat.
Oh,
and,
likewise.
When you initially said Bop It Inventor, I thought it was just a meme page for sure.
So you guys you said you started with the idea of interviewing people, and then when you saw the hashtag, you thought it was just, that's been an issue, is what to call this, so people know that I really am the inventor of Bop It and about 100 other things. But I didn't know honestly how to quite. I've tried to get an official. It's very hard to get an official thing on there, because you can be an official of a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I'm not. The Bop It brand is Hasbro's, the actual, even though it was my concept, my name, everything. But when you sign a contract, they have the rights to it. They're very cooperative with it. It's just there is no, whether you can be an official inventor of something with a verified sticker is. We're working on it, but just because then as I contact celebrities and different people to be involved in certain things, you just want them to know it really is you. So
right, that makes sense. That they got to really make sure, like, is this legitimate? Is this does it get the blue check mark?
Well, and verified keeps you from going in the others' inbox too. When you're messaging people, you get a lot of DMs. Yeah. So I mean, that blue check is like an actual physically built into the code to
front of the line.
Make sure, yeah.
Oh yeah, no. So we're trying to figure it out because well, we'll get into that later. Just a lot. What's planned, why I started this was because I have an independent project that I'm going to be launching next year. That's really, really exciting. And I want to make sure we're doing it, taking our time to get an audience, do it right. And then if we do a Kickstarter or something, just to make sure there's enough awareness before trying that.
Nice. So wait, was your account, I didn't see like actually when it originated. Was it with quarantine? Was it kind of like you had extra time? Okay, nice.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, almost exactly. Started in February or March, yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, good timing for that.
Yeah. Well, it was sort of I was thinking about this project anyway, but this sort of just made it like definitely I'm going to be doing it. So.
Right. Yeah, I'll keep our eyes out for that new project. That is exciting.
Yeah.
Get a independent something going.
Yeah, no, I'm literally gonna start. I've been delaying it, but this week or next week start to reveal a little bit about it. I'm happy to talk about the general concept of what it is, because it's not really, it's the opposite of what we do normally. Everything's secretive, and then you launch it, and this is sort of the idea of, well, how about letting people see the development of something, and it's for it's just a whole different approach. What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah, I think that's really cool, and it gives people a chance to get emotionally invested in it before it's coming out, before it's dropped, which I think is cool.
Yeah.
But whatever you want to share about that, we want to listen for sure.
Yeah, let me know how would you like this? Just let me know what you'd like to talk about, and I can share more about that with you, or whatever you'd like to talk about.
So wait, you said you would share like the general idea of the project?
I can share it. I won't show visuals of it yet. That's what I'm revealing. But I'm happy to talk about it, because I'm going to start talking about it relatively soon. Anyway.
Okay, cool. Yeah, if you want to give us a little sneak peek, whatever you think is the appropriate amount. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm curious your feedback, or people who listen or who comment. But I guess the main thing to think about is, so the next year is the 25th anniversary of the invention of Bop It. It actually came out in 97, but we're celebrating. I mean, it's, as everyone will tell you, as you get older, you're like, what? 25? Like, it doesn't seem possible, that it's been 25 years.
I was say,
but
Bop's
for those who those who grew up with it, they're like, it's as if it's always been there. So for me, having had a whole life before that and since, I'm like, wow, for the perspective of those, especially in the 90s, that grew up when it came out, and that's what, over the last several years, but especially recently, I'll be traveling, or someone will run into me, what do you do? And I'll say, I'm an industrial designer, but I develop games. And eventually, if they ask anything I would know of, I can try some of the other things, like a lot of the things, Perplexus. There's some pretty well-known games I've also developed, but Bop It by far is so recognizable. I was sort of started to become amazed that anyone in their late 20s, 30s knew it. I literally couldn't find one person who I would say in that age group who I'd say, well, I made this game, Bop It, who not only didn't know it, but their reaction was like, you're kidding me. Wow. I was sort of surprised. Like, I know a lot of other inventors, a lot of people. I've invented many things. I mean, even I know the guy who did Tickle Me Elmo. I know the guy that did Hatchimals. I know the guy that, we were all friends. We all know each other. They're like, man, none of us have a game that people react like that to. And so I'm really curious why. I was like, why is it that Bop It has this other feeling to it? And when you look at all the spoofs and all of the, the biggest honor, as I said, to have The Simpsons spoof your invention, or Saturday Night
Robot
Live.
Chicken did one.
Yeah, there's plenty.
Robot Chicken did one as well.
There's plenty of
like really, really funny, good stuff. Memes, all the things that are out there, and including, I guess, just this last 30 days, TikTok has gone crazy with people dubbing their voices from the sound into, like, I've been doing some of those videos. I don't know if they got an idea from some of the videos we did that float around, but it's kind of blown up. And so just put in perspective, to have done something 25 years ago that is actually getting stronger or more nostalgic, or, you know, and is still relevant in a way, especially when there's a quote in pop culture, you know, to have it referenced so often, it's really remarkable. So I'm thinking, one, my biggest feeling about it is just gratitude. Like, it's amazement, but also just like, how did I get so lucky? I mean, it takes luck, it takes talent, all those things, timing, you know, and I've done many, many things that have not worked. So you become extra grateful for the things that do. And this is, you know, once in a lifetime thing to have had a game that just happened to be the right place, the right time, the right idea, to have captured this. And now 25 years later, to think that it's still around. So I was trying to think of something to do to kind of give back that would show my gratitude, but also be a really amazing experience. Like, how could I do something that would capture that, allow all those fans and people who love it, like, really thought about it for a while. And I came up with this concept of doing basically a give back for specific types of causes, to, you know, not just to raise money, but also to kind of bring people together. Like, what's the ultimate? Because to me, I went into games because I love the concept of sitting at a table, look, you know, kind of like sitting around looking at each other playing something.
Right.
That's why you guys say D&D or the card games, cribbage, whatever it is. What they have in common is you're sort of sitting there. So Bop It isn't that, right? Bop It is a game where you sort of pass it around. It's sort of it's social, but it isn't sitting down. So I wanted to do basically like that giant one. If you look in one of my posts, was the big giant one in the office. It's a big table that's like a giant size Bop It.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that inspired this, was that people standing around a circle playing this game is really popular when people visit the studio. When they used to visit, like, I give a lot of visits and tours to students, you know, that is like the highlight.
Oh, right on.
You know, we all play that game. So I've been wanting to do something like that for years. So this is a project that's going to be, basically, it's a foundation actually called Project Optipus. And if you know the name, so the name Optipus should tell you everything you need to know.
I have a visual.
I'm starting to get it.
So that is, but the fact is, okay, so here's the concept is that this is a thing that has 8 arms that reach out to include as many people as possible. It's like Bop, in just a real, you know, literal sense. It's a thing where 8 people can play at once, or 4 people, or 2, or 1. However, there's a way that it's going to work where it doesn't matter how many people, but it'll be sort of the first game that literally 8 people could all play together, a family, you know, something that enough of an experience where probably most 99% of the families, you know, could play it together, or a group of friends, or whatever it is. But it's got it just because it's something that is, you know, charitable, and it's going to reach out to 8 different causes. So when we launch it, it's the idea that the money, I'm not going to take profit from it. It'll be sort of like, you know, Tom's Shoes or Paul Newman salad dressing or whatever, meaning that we'll pay the people who work on it's going to be a business that creates a product, but that the profit is going to go to these 8 different causes, very much focused on the arts, music, design, things that were important to me to get me to learn what I do, and that I feel are underfunded, and that you know, it's trying to get and play in general, and just the celebrating play. So trying to create a product that really gets people who love Bop It to be like, this is the mother of all Bop Its. It's so crazy when you see it, and you can imagine it in your head.
I can picture it.
But there's a lot of thought into it, that it is a thing you play, face each other. There's a bunch of really, really cool features we've never been able to do in a Bop It because of cost. So this is going to be, you know, an expensive Bop It that a millennial can afford to buy for themselves and their family. You would never launch it as a kid's product.
Yeah.
But it's going to have some very sophisticated connected to, you know, as you can imagine, all the things. So that's just the hint of it, is that it's going to be, but the idea that it reaches out and people can kind of reach back and create. We're going to try it, and if it succeeds, then it might launch other projects like that we do through this Optipus Foundation, which is not a Hasbro product. It's Bop It like, but it is not. It's from the inventor of Bop It for Bop It fans, but it's a product that will be done specifically for that cause. And any other projects, if successful, that we do will be run through that could also be to raise money for certain charities, but celebrating play and creating funding for those type of programs.
Sounds
awesome.
Incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna.
But even if it, it's a killer. The product itself, as we start revealing it, we get prototypes. It's one of the most. It's basically a battle royale type of experience. So you'll enjoy that.
Yeah, we're gonna keep our eyes out for Bop the Plus.
Yeah.
That sounds very fun. I think that's what makes Bop It so recognizable and stuff. It's very simple to learn, but then impossible to truly master. Like the time you have to put in to get your reaction.
Oh, but those kids and these kids are getting 500,000 views on YouTube when they do the speed runs, and they try and go from easiest to hardest, and they beat all the modes. Or
I don't even know how they're doing that. It's crazy. Or the kid Sam Loki, the guy that posts, he Bop It Smash has have you guys played that?
I haven't played that one, but I have seen pictures of it.
It's got a bonus mode that actually, when we developed it, I was kind of disappointed in the bonus mode because the game is, you're trying to stop the light in the center based off of those things that you see in an arcade. And it's a really cool, it gets faster and faster. Great game. Our prototype didn't ramp as quickly. The problem is it ramps so fast that it's almost impossible for a normal person to get over a score of 250 or 230. But people are getting 1,000 or whatever they're getting, because there's a bonus mode where you don't die, but it was intentionally done as a preset pattern that you could memorize.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And you get bonus points. You can't lose points, but if you nail it, but it's really fast and almost impossible. But these kids memorize it, and they memorize they go bop da 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 da, they get it and they nail it, and they're getting perfect scores in these bonus rounds. I mean, it's astonishing. And if you go on YouTube, look at Sam Loki, I think you pronounce his name, or Loke, and he's got, he's setting records on all this stuff by simply, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So those, from learning about those things, that's part of the other extra games we're going to try to put into the Optipus, are really looking at what people have done that let it be, like you said, easy to learn, but then there's lots of Easter eggs in there to make it really special.
Yeah, I'm almost imagining a 1-player mode for it, to where you got to be running around the octopus. That would be.
Oh, there's a 1-player mode.
Oh, nice. Okay.
It's
Gonna have
trying
Bop
to
It
decide
in gyms now.
It's almost better without seeing it to understand that. As it turns out, a Optipus has a ball underneath it that you grab in order to play as a solo player.
Oh, okay.
There's a grip. So without sounding too strange, you actually do grab the Optipus by the ball to play it as a solo player.
That's awesome.
Love it.
And I don't know any other way to say it, but that is literally how you hold it. In order to, there is a ball that makes it possible to hold from any angle. And in developing it, you realize, well, that sounds kind of funny, but that's the instructions. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I can't really think of any other way to.
So that leaves the other hand free to do 8 different things. So So, but there's a lot of surprises on not just what are those, or as you said, letting people in on the development, is maybe deciding what those moves should be as well, getting some voting on that, as well as whose voices or voice should be in it.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's going to be the part we're working on, is how to invite people to, basically try to, who wants to be the voice or voices, and who can we get to, if it's for good causes, who can we get to put as many different voices and cool, comments and things in there as we can. So we'll see.
Yeah, that'd be cool. You get Samuel L. Jackson. Bop it, motherfucker.
Yeah. We believe, yes. That's having fans like you guys saying, this is who I'd like to see. That's going to be part of it, right? Like, we need as much exposure, as many people saying to the, hey, you should. That's why, making this a charitable thing is trying to appeal to people. Say, well, we eliminate all the issues about it being a product that's, you have to do different types of deals to do a product. I'd rather it just be the coolest, funniest celebration of what fans want it to be, and raise a bunch of money for some really great programs.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be a hit.
What else you got? I'd like the Samuel Jackson. You must have a bunch of others you could think of.
Yeah, that's just off the dome.
Yeah, there's got to be.
But
some sports announcers.
There's been quite a few celebrities that have spoofed it, so we might go to them and give them a chance. But it's not just the commands. The funny thing is, what does Bop It say when you fail?
Right. Yeah, the little insult you get from it. Yeah.
But do it again. The same way, only better.
Yeah. What's that?
I think it's the original Bop. It's like, do it again the same way, but only better.
Yeah.
I think that's one of my favorites.
Yeah. Do it the same but better, or So yeah. In short, the tagline for this project is basically Bop It for good, and that's the double meaning of, it's here to stay, and we want to make it. For the parts that I'm involved in with it as a project are to see how much good we can do with it. Just out of gratefulness of having had this luck, and the connection to all these people, like, get to talk to you guys or someone else, it never would have happened. And a lot of people I know work very hard for many years, inventors, and they have amazing ideas. You just don't get the break. And somehow I got lucky with this one.
Yeah. Well, it definitely seems like you're using your powers for good with the Optipus.
Yeah, it is going to be fun. So, yeah. What other kind of, what other interviews have you guys done that have been interesting? What kind of people have you met?
One of my favorites is this guy from a TV show that was on what was it? It was the Fox Reality Network.
Oh yeah, Fox Reality Network.
Fox Reality Network, yeah. And this guy named Rob, he was on a show called Solitary, where they all get locked in these pods. And there's 9 pods. There's not a person in each pod, and you're in there with just a robot talking to you, and she's giving you these challenges and stuff, and you're trying to do, and they're intense. Some of the challenges get rough.
And they're in there for like 2 weeks.
They're in there for like 2 weeks, solitary confinement, and you don't get to interact with the other people in the other pods. You only get to get the hearsay from the robot AI that's communicating between you, and she's giving you all these challenges, and you want to go longer than everyone else or harder than everyone else, but you don't know how long other people have gone until you quit. So if you're the first to quit, you're out, and that's just too bad. But you're trying to go farther. So some people have won the contest already. All the 8 other people have quit, and they've been going for 4 hours on sitting on a bowling ball that's made to be a stool, and they've just been on it for 4 hours, and they have no idea, and she doesn't tell you. And we had a guy who came in second. He was so close to winning that.
We don't interview winners at game shows. We've only talked to runners up.
Yeah, we've only talked to runners up.
Nice.
And then that one was a really good one. That one was very interesting.
Copper Cab was probably another really, really good one. That's what all my friends watch when I tell them to check it out.
Yeah, the one guy, he was a kid in 2010. He made the video where it was the gingers have souls, and he was yelling at the camera that people that have ginger hair do have souls. He's quite a character now. He's evolved quite a few times in the past decade.
Nice.
That's
great.
Stanley's Who Wants to Be a Superhero.
Yeah, we
Iron
interviewed.
Enforcer.
Yeah, the Iron Enforcer. So I mean, just in the nicest way, freaks, weirdos, goofballs,
random people that have just done something that's very unique.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you being interested in. Yeah, I mean, I obviously have a lot of thoughts, and things experimenting that I'm doing, and I really like the first time I felt the feeling of like engage that the things I did, that people I didn't know were going to have some experience based on something that I started, and that I would see them posting comments even though they didn't know me, was an incredible feeling of like, wow, I feel connection with that person. They just had a memory that they created by playing something that I my feeling is if it wasn't my game, it would have been someone else's game. Right. I don't think it's not like people find a way to engage with each other, but just feeling I wouldn't have felt a connection with them, but hearing them talk about, wow, I was on level 3 of this thing and I really and they're not even talking to me. They're just talking with each other. I could feel this like, wow, I feel connected. So it's really a great feeling to have people like you call and understand that the whole purpose of this is the purpose of games is connecting to people.
Yeah.
And this is sort of the meta reason for it. You get to talk about them and relate to each other. So I've just loved that part. And, it's kind of what keeps me going on it is to keep coming up with the next new thing that'll create that.
Yeah. Yeah. It just did create like a community of people that very much know what Bop It is, like had it or played it with their friends or family. And they just know like the intensity of it and but also the simplicity of it. Just grandpa can play it, a child can play it, anybody can pick it up and start.
Because I never had a Bop It. I only played it we had one in my first grade class, and that's how I found out about Bop It. My cousin had a Simon. Fuck Simon.
Don't get me started on the Simon versus Bop It. That's at first I'd say. Well, let me ask you. So, what's the difference? How would you describe the difference between Bop It and Simon?
Well, Simon, there's no like time limit.
Yeah, it's just a memory game.
So it's memory over. This is pure reflex and instinct. Is Bop It is the raw instinct and the intensity of it is the speed you have to go. With the Simon, you can sit there and be like remembering it. You can write it down even with Simon. You can't cheat at Bop It. You could cheat at Simon.
Interesting. I haven't really gone on this. I've given a lot of interviews or talks about how it started, but that is the crux of it. That was sort of the epiphany that was different. Is I was working on how I really always wanted to make things that engage you physically. The goal is to animate the player. I say, watch the player, not the game. How do you animate? How do you make the player move? If you think of the game as its purpose is to make people do things, So even when you play a game of cribbage or cards, that deck of cards is actually making you animate. It's making me draw a card and move a peg and look at the person and look down. Poker is very animated, right? It's all the little things that happen with cards. There's a lot of stuff happening with the people if you watch a poker game, even though it's just a deck of cards. So it's successfully animated, created activity. So when you look at, so I was looking at games through that lens long ago, like how can I make games that animate people? And the most obvious thing was, well, make them more physical, make them turn and twist. And I started with this idea for a remote control that called the channel bopper, that you bopped on a table to change channels. So instead of just pushing a button, it made you move. There was a channel up and a channel down, and you bopped it one way and the other, channel bopper. And the volume, instead of just being a button, was a twist, so that you would really have to move to turn the volume, and to turn it on and off, you pulled it. So you had bop, twist, and pull were simply the remote controls, how to make a physical remote control. And I thought that was it. That was an amazing idea, but got feedback that it wasn't really a market for it and all that. And so, one pitch I was doing, and a toy company guy from Parker Brothers said, maybe it's not a remote control. And, the first thing you do when you've invented something and someone says that is you go, what do you mean it's not?
Yeah.
Of course it's a remote control. You get all, you're just not seeing it. But instead, you kind of want to relentlessly listen to people, as I say, and you go, okay, so what if it isn't? And it just so happened that a company had called Tiger Electronics, who did a lot of LCD games, and they had called to say, do you have any more? We're these LCD games are sort of diving, the little fighting games and things. Any ideas? Do you have any ideas? And I sort of looked over at this Channel Bopper mock-up on my desk and thought, well, maybe it's an LCD game that's more physical.
Okay.
And but as it turned out, you couldn't really see the screen while you were bopping, and it didn't really work. So eventually, tying it back to Simon, I thought, well, maybe it's maybe it's like Simon, where these things light up and you have to do, you have to twist and you have to do this instead of just pushing a button. You have to do these actions in order. And I actually tried it, and it was really, really hard. Like, your brain understands patterns, but it doesn't, like, it was just like, wow, I couldn't do more than 5 moves on it,
Yeah.
So it's like, well, maybe it only gives you 3 moves at a time. Well, it's still kind of, maybe, and then it was like the epiphany was, what if it just told you to do one thing? And the first response would be, nah, it's way too easy. And so you go, well, let's try it.
Yeah.
like it's that lesson in, if I had said to myself, oh, that's too easy, it never would have happened. And it was more the concept that I liked Simon, but it was, I don't like memory games that much. But it was almost like, what if all you had to remember was one thing? It seems so counterintuitive. But by, trying it, I kind of evolved it and learned that, of course, timing, well, if it gets faster, it's got to get harder. And so it was just more of a gut feeling that I did with a very simple foam core mock-up with an audio track, as you saw, if you've seen my video from years ago. And that literally was like, I said to, when people tried it, I said, hold this piece of foam core in your hand and listen to the soundtrack from this video and just see how it feels. And you could tell just by listening to an audio track and twisting and bopping and pulling this piece of foam core, you could experience the game without having to have any electronics whatsoever, compared to a Simon or something where you'd really need, with the lights. And that's actually when I said, well, I guess it doesn't even need lights. Originally there was going to be lights in it. And so where it split off from Simon was, here is a game that in a way did inspire it as an electronic game with commands, but they couldn't be more different,
Right.
One is visual light patterns that you have to memorize, and the other one is complete audio command that you memorize nothing, you just have to react. So they're 2 completely different parts of your brain. And but that is a really interesting question when you say Simon versus Bop It, is understanding that they are absolutely different parts of your brain. And one of the most gratifying things, for instance, was hearing early on a school for the blind has named it like their #1 game, because you can people who can't see, or if you close your eyes, you can be just as good or better at it. And it's one of the few games, not only can you play if you're blind, but you can play with a person who isn't blind. And so a lot of the interactions they have at the schools are people who are both people who can see and who can't see. So it was really, for them to connect with each other and be able to play a game together and have there be no disadvantage was a big deal. And it had never occurred to me. So obviously Simon, you might have the equivalent would be if someone couldn't hear, they could play Simon with another person.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think it's an interesting, it just sort of focuses on what the senses, what the difference is. So, clearly I've done a lot of thinking and reflecting about it, and easy in hindsight to sort of trace the success of something, but the parts that are unclear as you're on that path is, taking these forks in the road. It's only possible to look back later and say, well, I'm glad I did that.
Yeah. Like, no idea, like, the impact that, like, a game blind people can pick up, they can feel, this is the pull, this is the twist, Bop It's in the middle, like, it just,
right.
Stuff in hindsight, you're like, wow, I I'm glad I did that. I didn't think of it at the time, but
yeah, you're right. Yeah, and maybe, but that probably emphasizes how tactile it was. I was trained as an industrial designer, went to Art Center in Pasadena, and I love physical form and creating things that are very tactile. If you look at a lot of the other things I've been involved with, like Perplexus and some of the games that are three-dimensional, way back, I did work for Discovery Toys, like even the rattles that I used to design as a preschool and design. They're all very Bop-It-y. People have commented, they all have lots of tactile things that you want to touch and feel the surfaces. So I think that was sort of part of the DNA of my industrial design kind of passion that really is a game and an industrial design thing that met in the middle. So, that's a lot of people go into game design from a different areas. That people come, there's writers, there's gamers, there's, researchers, anthropologists, whoever they might be. But I think from me coming at it as an industrial designer is what you see is very typical of the games that I've created that are, they're meant to be as much a sculpture as they are a game.
It's a good way to put
the
it,
ultimate, to have your game left out on the table is sort of the, rather than put away, would be the ultimate compliment. And that, going back to Optipus, that's basically what it's going to be. It's going to be something that is so sculptural and so cool to leave out that, it'll just be sitting there beckoning you to play it.
Centerpiece, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's a big appeal with the Bop It too. You mentioned before, you were like, oh, that's going to be too easy. But I think that's part of the beauty of it, is you can pick it up and you can play it. And then somebody's going to see you playing it and be like, you just got 15? Like, that seems really easy. I'm going to beat your score. And they pick it up and they end up playing with it for an hour because they can't beat 15.
Yeah, like...
Yeah. So, yeah, you mean that the fact that the engagement is that someone else watching you can understand it by just watching.
Yeah.
Instantly, and you think you would be better than you are going to be at.
Yeah.
Always.
Uh-huh.
Because it's very difficult.
Because it's telling you what to do. It's like, why don't you just do what it says?
Yeah, exactly.
It's right there. It's easy.
So what does that tell you about relationships when you say to someone, I just told you. Why didn't you do? That's what I just said. Like, really, what does that tell you?
It's just like a Bop It.
Yeah, it tells you a lot.
Like I say, it's proof that just doing the simplest instruction is actually hard for people, harder than you think.
Yeah. So I also read somewhere you used to make the bottles for toilet bowl cleaners. And
I was
and that you the neck that gets down in there was credited to you in the article. I don't know how true that was.
Well, it's I think it's an idea that was coming about in a lot of products at the time, and there were when I've looked back, I don't think it wasn't like I think it was right as things were changing a little bit in terms of bottles that were becoming more ergonomic. Okay. And I did have this project. It was with Clorox to do a toilet cleaning bottle. And, if you look at it, there's a lot of things that started to come out at that time that just, evolved into that. I think the one I did specifically was more ergonomic, and it had the ability to turn it upside down and squirt in there. But yeah, I was doing, as an industrial designer, one of my freelance, that's sort of how I got my studio started, as I fell into doing fairly, high-end branded things, because the company that hired me was actually the corporate identity company that did the graphics for like Clorox, or the other one was a lot of the liquor companies like Woodford Reserve bourbon.
I love Woodford Reserve.
It's a good bourbon. I was and Sauza tequila was those were clients of theirs where they were doing the graphic identity and the logos and things. So then they needed someone. They go, well, we think we want a new bottle, and they would call me in, even though as a ghostwriter, you might say. So I was doing the work as a freelancer for the corporate identity company. So my client wasn't Woodford Reserve, it was the graphic company, but they would, show it. So, but we won an award for the Woodford Reserve at the time, and it's the same bottle has been in use for like 25, 30 years. That's the one we did that looks like a flask. I had a couple guys working with me at the time, and built the foam models. Like, it's the same thing, prototyping the form. But bottles are really cool because they're like the purest form of like you associate a shape of bottle with a certain type of liquor, soda, toilet bowl. Those forms are somewhat ergonomic. They're somewhat representative. They're almost like people. They have a head, shoulders, tail. I really loved it. And if you think about it related to Bop It, it's really the same thing. It looks like what it does is really important. So Bop It, like you mentioned, the twist, the pull, they're designed that by looking at them, you know what to do with them. And I think that's a really strong feeling about most design is the form follows function. It's really more different than that. It's more, form follows kind of image recognition, or so form follows association. How do I know what to do with something by the way it's shaped? So those Woodford Reserve, looked like a flask. So it just gave you the feeling. I mean, you're going to drink it, but it kind of, the Sauza tequila, the Hornitos Sauza bottle, that's the same one we did years ago, which was just a cool looking, and you want to be unique, so it differentiates from other things.
Yeah.
And so each of these companies spend a lot on getting, their identity. Yeah, it's fun.
And you're right about the bottle being part of the identity, because when you do see a package, bottles or other things, and it's in a different shape or like size, it throws you off at first. You're like, wait, is this like it? Like, you're making sure. So like, it is a big part of like the brand.
I won't buy honey unless it comes in a little bear.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, like that's a good one. Yeah, it's like, but if you put tequila in that bear, you might be suspicious. So
Yeah,
or you'd expect you'd expect it to be honey flavored.
I could drink some honey whiskey out of a bear bottle, though.
Yeah, that'd be.
Yeah. Well, once we did a bottle. I remember we're doing a project, and it was for pickle juice, and coming up with all these shapes. What should a pickle juice bottle look like? And looking at existing ones. Oh, a pickle jar, a pickle this. What are the associations? And so, as a joke, did one shaped like a giant, huge pickle. Like big green, just thought it was like, we'll just throw this in as a joke. And they looked at it, they go, we love it.
Yeah.
And I thought they were kidding. So it was one of those conversations thinking they were saying, we love it. And they were pulling my leg. I was like, yeah. And it was like, wait, what? You do? You love it? And I don't think it ever came out, but it was one of those funny moments of you can never really go far enough.
Right.
It's like, you never know. But that's what I love. I think the concept of, like you're saying, design is so much a part of the culture now with everything, that it's maybe that's where Bop It sort of caught on earlier, as it was one of the first things to really feel like a product that had the shapes and the design all be unified.
Right. Yeah, I
There's
had
still nothing like it. Still nothing like the Bop It.
There's nothing. Yeah, I had the as soon as I contacted you the first time and you said you'd do this, I was like, Mom, you got to find the Bop It, because I knew we had a Bop It, but our basement at my parents' house is just a mess. But I was like, it's down there somewhere. We just got to find it, and because we had the Bop It Extreme, the one with the 4. And then, what was the one called? The one that you did it. You edited the nose and the eyes onto your face, where it's the Bop It itself is like a head where the hat pops off.
Oh God, I can't believe you'd have that. Was called Heads Up.
Yeah.
And it was with solenoids in it that popped everything out, and that was an attempt at making it wasn't called Bop It. It was kind of from the inventor of Bop It, or how they marketed it, but. Yeah, that was. Do you remember playing it?
I do remember playing it a little bit. I remember it's very different, just because its ears are popping out and its heads pop. I always remember what would get me is one of the ears would pop out and I wouldn't notice, and it would like I would notice it like just a second too late, and that's what would get me on
Yeah,
that one.
it was hard to pull off cost-wise to make, it needed all these solenoids in it, but that's literally whack-a-mole. It's taking whack-a-mole and making it into a three-dimensional thing. It just was very hard to execute as a product. And, like most things, it's time for it to go. And we're not quite, we don't believe the game is quite there. But unlike a mobile game where you can keep doing version 1 and version 2, once that thing's done, there's no way to update it. So that's finally, 20 years later, changing, where as we get closer to certain chips that are affordable that you can actually then do an update on an electronic game, that'll be a big deal. That's what we're planning for Optipus, for other things, is how not to get locked into releasing a chip that can't change. It's so that game, I just know from playing it, I cringe a bit. The gameplay isn't quite resolved, but it's a cool thing. I have a few of them, and when we're working on other prototypes, we'll take the solenoids out of those because they're really good little actuators.
Yeah, all the moving parts in a Bop It is impressive. Just the fact that everything has to function and be, like perfectly popping out or twisting and stuff. But yeah, I had the Extreme and the other one, and I know they're down there somewhere. But I just was like, I'll pick up. I grabbed the little.
There you go.
Mini.
That's the mini that's got the original gameplay in it. It's I think the amazing thing is you'll pull a Bop It out and it's been sitting there 20 years and it still works, and the batteries last. Very few people say they change the batteries on their Bop It even though they play it a lot. Like, they actually last a long time.
Yeah, because I guess all it's doing is playing a voice clip and then like getting the reaction of whatever button you're pressing. So it doesn't need a whole lot of.
Yeah, there's no motor,
Right.
When you say there's nothing else like a Bop It, are you mean like as a game that you play, or just as something like when you think about it, more like when you play it? Like, I'm trying to think, what is it?
Kind of
when does a Bop It
just the overall essence of the Bop It, the fact that it's something that I could pull out and I can be playing, and then somebody else can see it, watch me play it for 5 seconds, or they've seen the commercial so they know what to do.
Yeah, they just
and they can take it, and there's a challenge to it. You can better yourself while you're doing it. You can try and better your friends, or you can play it for fun. And it's stressful, but in a good way.
Yeah.
Because, there is a time crunch on it. You're trying to do things quickly, but it's so low stakes and so high stakes at the same time.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's so tactile. It's so easy to pick up and play. And it's so iconic. Everyone knows what a Bop It is. Kids know what it is. Millennials know what it is.
The parents that got it for
exactly
the now millennial. Yeah. And I think it honestly can like fine-tune reflexes more than like certain video games, even, just because it is it is actual like movement rather than just like buttons. Like, it is actually like moving your hands, especially with the Bop It Extreme, where it's got the flick and the twist too. That's where it starts getting real intense.
I think that actually I was going to start sharing on the page some of the hybrids of combining. We've actually designed some really cool Bop It and like basically video game controller that is also a Bop It that you can play. Cool. Like to add all that stuff to it, and I think you've hit it on. Like when the Wii came out, I remember us feeling like, they did it. Like they made a physical gestural interface for a video game. Because before that, me and my partners had looked at how to create a Bop It that interacted with the screen in that way, which is the physical side. But on the other hand, then you're focused on the screen, not on the person. And what I think the success of what, you were saying, David, you're saying? David,
yeah.
You go by David. No, it isn't David. What David was saying is that someone watching you play Bop It, what I like to say is you are the screen. Like you're the screen. That it truly animated you. You're doing something and they're watching you and you're the show, right? But
yeah, that's the fun of it. Yeah.
Right. And so
Watching
that was always the thought, is like, Bop It turns you into the screen. That's why you don't need a screen. And so every attempt we made at sort of trying to put an LCD screen in it, like there's been a lot of, I'll share some really interesting, like tons of old sketches, prototypes and things. But the interesting thing, like you kind of said about interviewing, you know, second place people, it's the same as I think talking about concepts that didn't make it.
Yeah.
Because, and why didn't they make it after thorough testing? And, you know, everyone says, oh, that's a good idea. And you go, yeah, but, you know, here's why I think it didn't really catch on, or why it just never made it when they did consumer testing. People just like, you know, the animating of you is more interesting than the screen. So when just to tie it into the Wii, do you remember what the commercials were for the Wii? Do you kind of have an idea of when you first heard about the Wii?
I wanted a Wii more than anything in the world. I remember it was like the two guys would roll up in their little car and they'd come up and knock on your house door and they would say, we would like to play, and they would have the Wii controller in their hands, and then they would just go in the random family's house and they'd play Wii with the random guys, and then they would leave the Wii there, and the family was just
Is
like,
that right? I didn't hear about that. That was, well, the TV ads that I saw first that really I was like, you know, they got was they didn't show the screen at all. They just showed, they showed people doing this crazy thing. And I was like, wow, that's what's cool about it. It was sort of gratifying to say, yeah, because we had the idea for things like that way before that with Bop It. It's like, how do we make this the thing that it's animating the person? It's fun to watch them. So they totally got it. You're watching these people, and then finally at the end of the commercial, they showed the screen.
Yeah, and you see like, oh, they're bowling, they're boxing,
right.
But like that you see the fun that they're actually having,
right?
The exercise actually.
Right. It showed that watching the people was as fun as watching the game. You know, I think that's kind of a key of why Bop It worked.
Yeah. You get to see their face. You get to see them start biting their tongue as it's getting faster. And
yeah.
Well, and one of my favorite games, even before the Wii came out, is you're essentially buying a whole system to play the one game, and it'd be like a home plate was the system, and you'd have like a baseball bat with the motion sensor. And I'm never watching what's going on the screen. I'm watching homeboy swinging the bat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like even like the Nest Zapper and stuff, just to see like, that's what's the showcase of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
A good way to put it.
So that's the message I sort of harp on about. There's many other, it's not like the only way to succeed, but I think as an industrial designer that likes tactile things, as a game player that likes games, as I like, you know, music, like all the things, Bop It was successful in a way because I went for my passions and just what the idea of animating people and making the people be the, you know, the most interesting thing, not the toy itself.
Right. Yeah. Bring that out of them with the toy, like
Again, all things I can say in hindsight that I wasn't necessarily, that I learned from doing it, as much as sort of maybe I intuited that, but I can't claim that I had that all figured out. I said, Bop It's going to be successful because of these things. I think it was sort of my interest that led to it and my gut feelings. But later looking back, I've been able to sort of maybe say on other projects that I've worked on, you know, make sure to pay attention to these things, because analyzing Bop It, it's easier to understand why, as David was just saying, you know, someone watching is as interested versus a person with their head down on their phone like this. You have no idea what they're doing. It's not that fun to watch them do it. So you don't really feel like you want to try it until, you know, you look over their shoulder or something.
Right.
So
how many types of Bop It are there roughly? Because I've seen you post ones that I've never ever, like, there was like a Bratz one that you weren't too happy about. There was
God,
quite a few types.
To the audio on it is just, you know, it's I mean, it's funny because it's so over the top, you know, LA, you know, teenager talking like a Bratz doll.
Yeah.
It's I honestly haven't. I have that collection at home. I'm not at home right now. I'm actually in the garage of my of a place we have. Otherwise, that's why I didn't think about to do this. I'd give you a tour of that, or a tour of our studio in San Francisco, which has 20 years of crap in it. But
Yeah.
the I don't know. I haven't actually counted, but when you look at all the keychains, I think it's
Oh, yeah.
I think I start around 18 or 19 different things, but it depends how you count. Like the Zing It, if you call the Zing It and the Top It, which were the yo-yo version and the tossing version, they came out right away. I posted about that very few people remember or had those, but actually then did a redo of the Top It for another company, Moose Toys. It was called Hyper Toss. So some of these games have kind of failed as a Bop It and come back as something else.
Okay.
But as once it became hot, the biggest thing was when they said, after the first few months, Parker Brothers at the time, it wasn't Hasbro yet. They were still called Parker Brothers. They called the guys from Parker, said, wow, this Bop It thing is selling, even though there's no TV. People are just buying it. It just looks, they don't even know what it is. They're just buying this thing. And we're going to, and they were kind of behind the 8 ball. They didn't know that it was going to be successful. So there was nothing planned to follow it up the next year. So they're like, well, how can we make it? Can we make smaller ones? Can we this? And that's, I said, actually, you should make it bigger. We should make the extreme version. And so the Bop It Extreme came out of kind of counterintuitive. It's like, let's make a more expensive one. Let's not make a less expensive one.
Yeah.
And they did, because it proved that when you see the person looking at that thing on the shelf can see more objects, so they know that it's worth more. Like, it's very clear this is worth more because there's more stuff. And it worked. It cost $5 more, and it outsold the first one. Like, it was incredible, unprecedented. In fact, both of them sold incredibly well for 3 or 4 years. That's why so many people know about it. Okay. And then it kind of faded out. And but then it was like, well, let's not do another extreme. That's when the Zing It and the Top It came out. Like, hey, there's other things you can not just a Bop It. But they didn't quite resonate. They're still kind of cool, but I mean, in terms of what's a real Bop It, Bop It Extreme, or Bop It's, the offshoots, Zing It, Top It are, kind of like that. One of the coolest ones was the guitar, which I haven't shown yet. It's called New Jam Guitar, and it was marketed as from the people that brought you Bop It. But we always thought it should have been called Bop It Guitar. Like, that actually might have made it a little more obvious what it was.
Yeah.
It's an awesome product. This was before Guitar Hero. I'll show it on my, I should try to, it was kind of like the first game that was a guitar. It wasn't like a play along guitar. It was literally this game. We wrote the music, did this full gameplay that you end up creating a song if you do what the lights show you to do in the right order. So it almost mixes a little bit of Simon in Bop It, because it gives you 4 things. You have to do 4 things at a time. It does a riff, and then you do the riff. It does a riff, you do the riff, but it gets faster, and you have to change your position. That's probably one of the most addictive, fun music games you'll ever play. And it didn't do very well, just because it was sort of half marketed as a Bop It, and it maybe was just, a little too sophisticated. So when you ask how many Bop Its are there, I go, well, you kind of, it depends which ones you count as Bop Its.
Okay.
Depends if you're a Bop It purist or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. A Bop It purist, I'd say it really has just been Bop It and Bop It Extreme, and versions of them where maybe a Shout It feature was added, or the mini like you have in your hand. Like, that's another Bop It, but it's really just a redo of a
tiny
small
version.
Bop It.
Yeah.
So there's really been the only 2 Bop Its that have ever really been are Bop It and Bop It Extreme.
Okay.
The others, but lately, like Bop It Shout, as we called it, the white one that had a little thing, added the feature of Shout. Then the one that one of the Bop It Extremes, Bop It Extreme 2, had a shake switch in it. I don't know if you ever, it was you could pop the shake switch out and decide to play with a shake or without a shake.
Oh, okay.
So it introduced Shake It as a command, as a 6th command.
Nice. Okay.
And it's really cool. But all these things with cost, it's hard to add more. And then the one that came out recently was the one where it gives you all these moves. It was it's just called Bop It, but in 2016, where it has selfie it and whip it and golf it. I don't know, it's got an accelerometer in it.
I saw that commercial. Yeah, I haven't played that one, but I remember seeing a commercial for that.
Right. So that kind of was based on all the people who would do spoofs on telling you, Bop It tells you to do something that you don't want to do or whatever. So it allowed us, because accelerometers got cheaper with all the phones and everything, that we could afford to put one in a toy. So technology kind of led to that. It's still a Bop It, but it was updated with those features. The following year, there's one we call Bop It Maker, where you make your own moves, where it allowed you to record your voice, name a move, and then record the action. So you could do something and call it whatever you want and make your own sound effect. Super ambitious, just too complicated, and so it didn't do that well. It also I didn't like the design of it. I didn't have final approval of the design. It kind of looked like a preschool toy. And so, you just never know. You try these things in tests, people can say, oh, I love it, but then it doesn't do as well.
Yeah.
So can say that next year you're going to see something besides the Optipus is, again, a separate project without Hasbro, but you will see something sort of honoring the 25th anniversary I'm very happy with for next year.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. So are you bringing back, and I mean, you can say that you can't tell us, but are you bringing back the shout feature for the Optipus? Because I think that'd be fun with like 8 people yelling at it at once when you get the shouting command.
Right now the answer is all of the above. This is what's going to be fun is people like you say, this is what I think would be cool. I'm literally, it's like, let's just let everybody give, what did you love about it, and make sure that we make it into something that's from the fans who loved it, who always had ideas. I've gotten many people say, just like that, I love hearing that, and put it on the list.
Yeah,
there you go.
Love it.
Because stuff like that's really fun. I remember one of the Zelda games for Nintendo DS. You're supposed to wake somebody up, and I'm sitting there like mashing A, pressing every button on the whole thing, and I'm just like, what am I supposed to do? And then I realized, I'm supposed to yell into the microphone on the DS to wake the guy up, and that was I remember that a lot just because it was like so unexpected for like what was happening. So yeah, stuff like that really, I think, like lets it thrive.
Yeah. When you yell, did you played the one with the shout?
I did. I never had one, but I played it at school.
Yeah, that was it was fun because we had it where you could turn it off so you didn't have to shout.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some funny videos on YouTube of people, what they shout into it is good.
Yeah, because I'm sure it just needs to hear a certain like decibel, and you can yell anything.
Oh
you
yeah,
want.
you could just whack it with your hand, But people tend to do what you tell them, or it's easier to do what it says versus you could try to do something else, but it's too fast, so you just do it's to shout. So most people just go that. But yes, if when I start showing the first features, shouted is actually one that's in there.
Awesome.
But I'm still saying we'll see. There's 8 different things we can do, and there's even thoughts of how to make it even more flexible than that. But just because that's been one of the funniest things with all the spoofs and everything, is everyone coming up with a different it. However, it is a very important thing in terms of the philosophy of why Bop It, Twist It, Pull It were the 3 commands. Is they're three very distinct things, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they're different axes of 3-dimensional. A bop, a twist, and a pull. They're almost like XYZ. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think that one is so classic. Is that was the original, and actually Parker Brothers, when they were developing it, they looked at all these other things. Everyone had an idea. Oh, it should do this. And they said at the end of the day, those were the 3 things that worked the best. They were just so distinct. And there's another thing that, because it's audio based, can you hear what it says to do clearly?
Oh, and so distinct sounding.
Bop, twist, pull are 3 different vowel sounds.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
know, and we found out the hard way that if you look at Bop It Extreme, what are the commands? Bop, twist, pull, flick, and spin.
Ooh.
So flick, spin, right, and twist all have an I sound. So actually, it's sometimes people have a hard time. Oh, I thought it said flick it, but it said twist it or spin it. So I've actually looked at when you pick what sounds, what you should do for audio commands is trying to name them. Like instead of spin, maybe we should have called it roll.
Okay. Yeah.
So it has an O. So that,
Okay.
you know, like, so these are things you learn later. But that's kind of watching people suggest a lot of things. But part of it is, are they distinct enough motions to be different from each other? And is there a way to name them that is different from each other? You know, I think that's part of the success of why the first Bop It worked, is it was just so clear
Yeah.
and distinct.
Yeah. It's interesting to see how like psychology and language actually fit into how a Bop It works. Like, that's
Yeah.
awesome. And then when I was doing my research a few weeks ago, I saw a Bop It Extreme original, like in box, for going for like $240 on eBay, and that blew my mind.
Are you asking if that was me?
Oh no.
No, I'm just kidding.
Selling off the private reserve. No, I was just thinking that's
thought about
crazy
it.
that the price, that people are, that's, you know, almost a video game system. People are just
I don't know. Do you know, like, I see a lot of old collector. Does that mean it's the asking price and someone, you know, or does that mean they're going for that? I don't do buy games like that, but I wonder, because you'll see them because there's no more of them, you know, like,
yeah.
it's not like you can just make a new one. So I don't know. I do have some original Bop Its in package that I've kept for 25 years. And, you know, I've always thought, yeah, I'll keep one, but maybe as part of this project, you know, I've kind of kept a lot of things with a plan to auction them off for, hopefully, for this charity fundraising that we do. Like, I think it's cool to have stuff that people would want that's really worth something to them for all the I don't know.
Right.
Why does it have that value? I don't know, but
Because they're gonna treat that very well if they're dropping $250.
Right. And if you throw a signature on there, it might go a little higher too.
Oh yeah.
like I said, I'm happy to whatever, you know, at this point, I'm so grateful that this worked. And, you know, I've worked very hard on a lot of things and done well on a lot of the games. It's so exciting. Any game that comes to market that people enjoy, you make some money on it. You know, it's really hard work. So to have had this happen and have it be, you know, a product that I love and that people love to talk about and play, it's great. If it can, you know, at this point, I want to see what can we do to make more good out of that, that I can do personally. I think I'm very, very interested in. So yes, maybe I will auction those off at some point. If a signature makes them raise more money, great.
You guys got anything else?
Yeah, I guess the last thing would just be like, where can people find more information about Bop It? Where can they keep updated on Optipus? I know Bop It Inventor on Instagram. Where else should they follow you? Where else should they be looking for everything?
Well, I think Facebook, we put Optipus on there actually as the name.
Okay.
Originally, I was going to have the Instagram called Optipus, but we felt like, oh, people should know that I am the inventor of Bop It. And for now, you know, it'll be the Optipus project. That's why I started the Instagram. But rather than being this mysterious persona, we just figured I should just be myself. Obviously, at first started and still, you know, humorous memes, things like that, started doing, but then it started to morph it more into being me telling stories about all the Bop It and just inventor tips, you know, the rise and fall of
Oh no.
whoops.
There you are.
We're back.
Sorry, no, it was a call coming on my iPad. Just people I love, you know, I'm just sort of experimenting still with that. So I might go to some other YouTube, take a lot of things I've done and make a YouTube channel just so it's easier to kind of do it, or maybe do some longer. As you can see, I like to talk. So maybe it could be some longer videos telling more stories. I have a lot of people who worked on things that are interesting. So we'll see where it goes, but I'd say the Bop It Inventor, Instagram, Optipus on Facebook, and I'm starting to update the Wikipedia page. It just sort of happened. I don't know how it got there, so I'm gonna make it more real.
Yeah.
And I think,
Really cool.
yeah, but maybe I'd love to hear, that's what I'm looking for, more interesting feedback, as I have now a purpose to develop this foundation as well as a product, and, getting people sort of to comment on it. So do you think there's other platforms that would be good for that?
I think YouTube would be awesome. You mentioned giving us the tour, and I would love to see that. I would love to get that on this show. But I think if you did just a YouTube video showing your studio and showing your office and everything, I think that would do really, really well.
Going through it. Some other
Cool.
people that worked on Bop It going head to head, beating each other's scores, stuff like that.
Yes.
That would do numbers on YouTube.
Okay. Yeah, no, I will. Great. I appreciate that suggestion. I think right now we're not in the office is the problem.
Right.
Yeah.
We're just because we have 5 people, like I said, that work. We're always pitching toy companies on new games. The new game, actually, I will say, Break the Board, which is a game I sort of showed, just came out. It's kind of like a game that, if Simon is memory and Bop It is reaction, this one is actual speed. It's that you're basically trying to keep up with these commands on this, it looks like a karate board. And if you get to the end, it says break the board, and you actually punch it and it breaks.
Cool.
Nice.
Really fun. And the commercial is pretty good. So that's coming out, and I'm actually nominated for a Game Innovator of the Year for this thing called the Taggies. So I'm just about to post a funny video, and I say, please vote. I think it's a consumer vote. You can vote for it for Game of the Year.
Awesome.
If you like it. So we're going to show that, but that's what we do. I think what we're going to be doing is showing lots of different, archives, inventions, pitches, failed pitches, if people find it interesting, of, besides Bop It, which, has a long history, but that's really a small part of what I've done for 25 years in terms of creating innovative things and the flops, because nothing
people like
has been
to
as
see
successful.
they immediately have like mystery to them, and people are like, well, why didn't it? Like it immediately intrigues people, like, why didn't this work, but these did. So yeah, I think that's, and some of the time people are putting into the spoofs and stuff, because I feel like the spoofs are always with respect, but like the time and energy people are putting into them, like you were saying, people doing the lip syncing of it on TikTok. I saw somebody had a tattoo of a Bop It Extreme. Like that's people are dedicating their like time and bodies to Bop It.
Well, yeah, there's 250,000 videos of Bop It challenge on TikTok right now.
Wow.
250,000 original videos. That's not views, that's videos.
Yeah.
Right? That's a lot. So I'm probably going to go on, try to find a way to give away these t-shirts to people. Just say, okay, this is awesome. I'll, one per week, fine. But now there's so many, it's like, I'm trying to figure out a platform to be able to just sort of do it, because ultimately I want those people who are passionate about Bop It to be engaged in the Optipus project, and say, if you love Bop It, maybe you can tell people about this and try to help us raise more awareness and money for, as that product comes out. So that's really what my goal is not to just be well known, as the inventor of Bop It, but to turn it into, publicity for that purpose.
Yeah.
So if there's, once we get to that point, but yeah, this is a product I think I just showed. I don't know if I've showed that this just came out. It's another one we just developed. We did Perplexus, and this is Rubik's meets Perplexus.
Wow.
So it's actually, this one doesn't move. There's one that it moves like an actual Rubik's Cube. This one is sort of 3 layers. But do you guys know Perplexus?
Yes.
Sphere.
Yes, I have one of those at my parents'. Yeah.
Yeah, it's combining what we've done on Perplexus with this. This took a year to develop. Michael McGinnis, who's the original genius behind Perplexus, it's been a long time partner, friend on the Perplexus line. And so he and my partner, Brian Clemens, did a lot of just really created this and it just came out. So we'll see how that does. So there's always, you know, we're working on all sorts of things that are still three-dimensional stuff. You know, that's really our passion.
Yeah.
And so we kind of hard not being in the office I could show you a lot of those things, but hopefully back soon, you know?
Yeah, let us know. We'll keep in touch. We could definitely do another episode with a tour. And real quick about the cube there, like how you said, like the Bop It is a sculpture. That one 100% is something like I would have up with all my knickknacks, like just like being, you know, like a cool thing to just look at on its own.
Yeah, that's where Perplexus is really the king of that to me. Is we even built it with a stand because it's a sphere it just looks really beautiful when you look at it, and you know, ultimately that means it's a product that has more sustainability in a way. Sustainability can be that you can reuse it, or sustainability can be that you just keep it, that you enjoy it for a long period of time instead of just play it and get rid of it. So part of the enjoyment is looking at it. So
more than one reason to keep it around. Yeah,
our goal. But I don't have many things here in this garage, but I'll just give you one more. This was the first product that I actually licensed to a toy company.
Oh, I had one of those.
Yeah, it's a thing you dig in the sand with.
Yeah. Oh.
Sand digger.
Yeah, I had I had one that was like claws, too.
Yeah, the claws were. So this is this story, which I thought I would post at some point. It's the first product, like I said, that I did. I love, you know, this is very ergonomic industrial design kind of thing, and you know, it's the way people dig. You know, they dig with their hands like that. And I found a little company, this company called Steven, which it doesn't even exist anymore. I licensed. I didn't really know how to do a contract or license, so it wasn't a very good contract. We didn't get a patent on it, and pretty soon companies were knocking it off. And so they sort of said, we can't pay you anymore. They were paying a small royalty on it, but so I didn't really ever make much money on it, but I'll have to say that I've been all over the world and I see people playing with it.
Yeah. Humble beginnings.
And so it's kind of like, well, you know, that's to have designed something 30 something years ago and see that it's been knocked off and reused. It's almost like shareware. It's like, well, that's cool. You know, so I thought I wanted to do a little piece on that. Like says, you know, this is, in a way, it's the seeds of Bop It, if you want to think of it as another thing that looks like what it does.
Right.
You know, and trying to be more elegant than a shovel. So I just think it's interesting, you know, and you look back on, you know, that maybe taught me that I should be better about contracts so that I, you know?
Well, and they say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery.
Or plagiarism.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just don't want to be flattered too often. So.
Right.
But anyway, so there's more stories than we can obviously do. That's why I started. I'll keep sharing them on Instagram and appreciate any comments or ideas. Really, really appreciate you guys taking this long to talk. And
no, it's been a blast. This is very.
We appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, very informative episode. This is a solid one.
Cool.
Thank you. Well, yeah, I don't know. I hope you edited a little bit because it's long.
It's only hour 20. That's all right.
That's a good. I mean, people like our longer ones.
We've done longer, yeah. But thanks a lot, Dan, for coming on. We'll keep in touch. We'll keep our eyes out for the Optipus, and
we definitely want to do this again sometime.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I'll revisit. I think it's great to sort of say this is literally the first time I've talked about it.
Oh wow,
nice.
And with anyone other than the people involved. I just decided I was going to keep it secret. I said, no, I think I'm going to start sharing it. You know, like I said, what's the worst that can happen? Someone's going to knock it off. So it's like, well, they can try. I can tell you it's a really hard project to do.
Yeah, it sounds like quite the undertaking.
and I think making it into a fundraiser, making it for doing it for cause just gives it so much more power, and it will be, it doesn't matter if someone likes the product and they try to do something like it. It's not going to be the same. So I'm feeling like it's time to just start sharing and engage people and let it be part of the process. So
very cool.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks,
Awesome.
guys. Really look forward to listening to more of your. I'm going to look back on more of your podcasts. And
Awesome. Yeah, that
we'll
Rob
see
Rob
you-
one. It's called Stuck in Solitary with Rob Rob. That one. That show is a trip. That one was a very interesting one to get some insight on. That's a good one to start.
cool. I'll take a listen.
Awesome.
All right.
Well, take it easy,
Thanks.
man.
Yeah, man. Have a
Really
great rest of your
enjoyed
day.
it.
Have a good
All
one.
right. Take it easy.